righty, we have got a loaded show. I haven't done a show with 3 other people in a very long time, but this should be a lot of fun. We're going to be answering all of your fantasy basketball related questions. And if you're lucky and you ask a good question that isn't fantasy basketball related, we may get to that as well. I am here with Steve St. Pierre, Scott Keller, and Adam King. You probably know him better as just Kingy. Gentlemen, I'm not going to ask this just all at once out of fear of everyone just kind of answering, or maybe everyone getting scared and not answering, but I'll start with you. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Noah. Thanks for setting this up, man. This is going to be awesome.
All righty, Scott, how about you?
Doing great as well. Just got off work and, set myself out early just to do this. Looking forward to it.
What's better than that, being off work and not having a full day ahead of you, because it's kind of the end of the day for us. Kingy, speaking of, how are you this bright early morning?
Yeah, so I'm here. It's 7 a.m. here. It's fine. I'm normally up at this time. Kids are back at school today, although my son is now sick, so apparently he's not going to school. And yeah, I'll be finishing up here and then heading off to work. Well, in saying that, I've got a meeting with someone to talk about sport and drink coffee. So it's really not that hard a day.
Seamless transition right there.
Yeah.
We'll start off we'll get you warmed up for that by talking about it. We'll just talk about some basketball here. That's what we're here to do today. And we've got a handful of questions coming in, and I'm sure more will come in as we continue to talk. This first one here, what do you make of Wendell Carter Jr.'s performances in the preseason? He looks reinvigorated. Is he worth a late pick in drafts, or is there not that much upside? He scored in double figures all 3 games of the preseason. He's got a 20-point double-double in there as well. Steve, we'll start with you on this one. Just because you're at the top of my screen, we'll do that. What do you think about Wendell Carter? Are you feeling like you want to draft him, or are you just saying, hey, it's the preseason, who really cares?
I'm going with option B. I think it's, preseason. We're going to see kind of a mix of all those big guys on that team. We're going to see Goga Batadze in there. We're going to see Jonathan Isaac. At some point, Mo Wagner is going to come back. I do give Carter credit. He's looking good. And if you want to take him like last round, especially if you need another big man, I'm not saying that it's a bad pick. But for me personally, I'm not getting like overly excited about it. It is good to see. I do think he's draftable, but for me, I've got other big guys that I'm targeting later in drafts.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt. He is a starting center, so maybe it's not the worst pick possible, not a ton of upside. We've got another question here from Ryan, and I'm going to go to you, Scott, for this next one. In a weekly games cap league with 3 IR plus spots, is the upside of Chris Middleton worth a late pick? He played 24 minutes in the preseason yesterday, which is really cool. If he gets close to 30 minutes in the regular season, do we like him? And it's the thing. He's playing on the tanking Wizards, and he's never healthy, but obviously he's still really good at basketball. How are you feeling about him?
I guess with the weekly games cap, that always, throws a little caveat into things. So with Chris Middleton, with the Wizards, like you said, a tanking team, I mean, there's opportunity to plug and play him where you see fit. And when he's healthy. So, I mean, with those, and like you said, he's mentions in this question here, he plays 24 minutes in the preseason. So that's good to see as well. So putting all those things together, yeah, I mean, I'd pick him up as a late pick for sure.
100% worth the chance there. We've got the next question. We'll just keep rotating through like this. We've got him flying in now. Kingy. This is from Brian Lopez. If Ja were to miss a full month at any point this season, obviously he's hurt right now. The latest update from today is that he's still week to week, which tells us nothing. But he was able to get some shots up today. That's pretty cool. But how high would you put a guy like Ty Jerome? Is he a top 50 guy? Where do you place him in there? And actually, I'm just going to ask you here, what are also your thoughts on Scottie Pippen Jr. in this scenario? How does he fit in?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think... How high would I have him? I don't know. I'm not super high on him. I would have Pippen above him slightly. They're pretty close. More just because of the defensive upside. I guess if we're looking at how fantasy numbers or production translates to fantasy value, defensive numbers tend to boost players up a bit. So I'd probably have Pippen just ahead of him. I mean, I think if Ja were to miss sort of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever during the season, which you probably will. I think both of them will be must roster players, and you probably could get top 60, top 70 value for that period of time. I think they're almost going to cannibalize each other a little bit. If Jar is out, they'll probably, unless one of them establishes themselves ahead of the other, I think it would be sort of a minute split. They'd probably both play about 26 minutes, which would be fantasy relevant. But I don't think it would be a situation where one of them plays 34 minutes and the other one plays 20. I think they'd, as I said, unless one of them establishes themselves. But I think both would be fine to pick up. But top 50, that might be pushing it.
Yeah, that is probably lofty expectations. But like you said, both will probably have some streaming value. It may come down to what categories you need. Ty Jerome's probably giving you more threes. The defensive production from Scottie Pippen Jr. I know that'll fit in better with your teams, Kingy, just with the way you probably like to build a lot of them. But we did have seen in the preseason Ty Jerome starting, and Scottie Pippen Jr. only played one game so far, but he was coming off the bench. All right, Steve, the next question we've got here. He's got pick 5 in a 9-cat head-to-head format. Would it be crazy to take a guy like Cade Cunningham or Anthony Edwards over a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Do it.
No, not crazy at all. Absolutely. I would do it. Get those guards. I've been saying it all summer long. Get them early and often because that's what's happening in drafts. These guards are going. I would take Cade over Edwards pretty easily, personally. But, I'm all for it.
No bias there? Is that Detroit bias or is that
maybe a tiny bit of bias, but in all truth, just get those guards. Get guards early and often. Be aggressive.
I was gonna say, I know you're going around, but just to add, I've got a few head-to-head teams, and I've had like the 6 and 7 spots, and I've had to choose between Cade and Anthony Edwards. I've done this multiple times now, and I just keep flip-flopping because I like both ideas. I think you can build better around Cade, I feel like, than you can Anthony Edwards right now.
Yeah, I think Cade has a little bit more upside, a little bit. I mean, they both obviously young, up-and-coming players. But, I just think Cade, the usage, he's going to have the ball a ton. Edwards, he still has other guys with him too. So, I like both of those guys. I like them over Giannis, especially in 9-cat.
And Scott, you're also team Cade and Anthony Edwards over Giannis?
Definitely. I'm not a big punting guy. Obviously, we got somebody over to the side of my screen that is a bigger punting guy. I like to more, kind of pivot to a punt if I need to throughout a draft. I don't kind of go in thinking about it that as much. I feel like these guys, when you see Cunningham and Edwards, you're getting in the middle of a traditional, 12-team draft. When you come flip around the other side, you're picking around 19, and a lot of the higher value people are already gone right now before you get to that spot. So if you can build a little bit better with that middle second round pick, I think it's easier with a non-punt build with an Edwards or a Cunningham.
Definitely. We'll spend a little bit more time with this question because I feel like it's kind of an important one. Kingy, are you in the same boat or are you taking Giannis over these guys?
The obvious answer is probably that I would go Giannis because I like to punt, but no, I think I'd go Cade. I love Cade. So, a little bit. There's no Detroit bias for me, obviously, but it's I think Cade's looked amazing in the preseason. The Detroit trajectory, I think, helps him. They're positioned to push to be a top 4 team in the East. So all signs point to him just really taking a hold of this team and letting it fly. So I think, and Edwards, I can't bring myself to like Anthony Edwards. So I'll go Cade. I'll go Cade here, and you can still punt with Cade. It's not as obvious, but you can do it. So I'll go Cade.
Yeah, okay. So I have pick 5 in my FBI World Cup draft, and I went Giannis. So I guess I'll just kind of take the other angle here because you can go whatever. I don't think any 3 of these guys are a bad pick.
No.
But I went with Giannis and leaned in pretty heavy to a punt and was able to get Sabonis and Chet Holmgren the next 2 rounds, which I was pretty happy with. But it really does come down to team build. And I'm saying this with a Pistons hat on too. Like, not hating on Cade Cunningham, of course. We love Cade Cunningham over here. I'm going to take this next question because it's recommendations for Dynasty content. And I recommend this show. This is generally us talking about Dynasty fantasy basketball on here. So if you like or want Dynasty content, this is going to be redraft week, but after that, we're getting back to Dynasty stuff. But there's obviously a number of other really good Dynasty content creators that I try and retweet it as often as possible or try and have on this show when I can. Yeah, so check them out. But I'd recommend this one if you guys are okay with me doing that. Is that bad for me to do that?
No, it's not bad at all.
Cool, shameless plug. Cool. It's perfect.
I figure it's okay.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, we'll go to you for this next one. I just got offered Mark Williams for Herb Jones in an ESPN 12-team 9-category league. Should I accept? And shout out to playing category leagues on ESPN because you can probably get incredible value because I feel like it's really skewed towards points rankings. But what do you think?
I got to say yes, mainly because of what's in parentheses right there. The only center currently being Joel Embiid. I think obviously there's a lot of uncertainty there. Mark Williams, or I guess I'd say I would take Mark Williams, yes, over Herb Jones. So Herb Jones is, I don't know, kind of later. I guess it all depends again on your build and your statistics you're looking for. Herb Jones is a nice piece to a 9-cat team, especially later on in the draft. But I think Mark Williams has much more upside potential this year.
Yeah, I think upside is definitely the key here because Herb Jones will be Herb Jones, and that's a really good thing. But Mark Williams obviously helps the factor, but ton of upside there. Kingy, will Kevin Porter Jr. replicate his Houston stats? He's got a really nice opportunity in Milwaukee this year because they just didn't add that much this summer around Giannis outside of a guy like Miles Turner. And I'm not confident that this is going to be a really, really good team, but I think it's a good opportunity for him to potentially do that. What do you think?
Yeah, I had to pull up his Houston stats to remind myself of what he actually did when he was there because it feels like so long ago because he's had some missed time and that sort of thing. So his best season in Houston was the 22-23 season, and he finished as the 84th ranked player. 19 points, 5.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 1.4 steals, 2.4 threes. So can he do that? I think a lot of that is probably replicable. Maybe the points, not so much. So I don't think he gets to 19 points, maybe 15 to 16. But I think everything else, I think he'll get 5 to 6 assists, probably just over a steal, couple of threes. Percentages aren't great for a guard. He's under 80% from the free throw line typically, but maybe he's worked on that a little bit. So I think certainly draftable, probably top, I don't know, where's he going? Probably inside the sort of the top 120, 110 in that.
So Yahoo, it's 116.3. Fantrax, it's 114.4. Okay. And ESPN, it's 80.7. So it's just.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, look, I think somewhat replicable, but obviously, as you said, we don't know what the season looks like for the Bucks. And I will say that Ryan Rollins has looked all right. He's the guy that I would like to see play more minutes, and he was pretty good in yesterday's preseason game. And coincidentally, I have his numbers from that game. He had 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 2 threes in 22 minutes. So, yeah, I'd like to see Ryan Rollins. What was that?
He's from Macomb, Michigan, too. Shout out.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
well, it's a no-brainer there. So, yes, in answer to the question, I think he can replicate some of what he did there, but I'm certainly not seeing him as locked in as their starting point guard. There could come a time when they go in a different direction.
100%. We're going to spend a little bit of extra time with this one just because I think it's an important one. It's talking about how to start your draft. He also likes the full defensive build that Kingy mentions with AD and a 14-man team. I'm assuming that this would be is it a 14-team league, do you guys think, or is it a 14 rostered player team? But would it be crazy to go Evan Mobley and Amen Thompson if I'm between pick 11 and 14?
Teams.
We'll say 14 teams, but either way, just kind of end of the first round, starting back-to-back with Evan Mobley and Amen Thompson. Steve, what do you think?
I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's actually a really good build for a lot of different reasons. Not only the defense, but just, again, the fact that, like, you're getting a big and you're getting Thompson kind of plays everywhere. But we think that he's going to probably have the ball in his hands a lot, especially with Van Vliet going down. So, yeah, I would love to start a team like that. That'd be awesome.
What are you thinking, Scott?
No, same, because especially where you're picking there, 11 to 14. So it depends what's coming back to you on the other end. And all the drafts I've been participating in the last, week, 5 days or so, Mobley and Thompson are going, maybe anywhere between 12 and say 18, 19 anyway. So that's not that far of a reach at all, especially when that's your second pick or first pick there. So picking on that end turn, or whatever, 11 to 14 is totally justifiable with those guys. Myself personally, I probably go Evan Mobley just because I feel a little more secure with him. But if you want, have a little more fun, a little more excitement, you can grab Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to get those guys and that's where you're picking, you can't wait another round. So you might as well just take them. Is that how you're feeling as well, Kingy? Because, I mean, they're shouting you out in the comments saying that this is a Kingy team, a Kingy build. So I'm assuming you're on board with this start.
Of course I am. This is a great start. I would, if you're picking it at say pick 12, for example, I would certainly look at taking a men. I'd probably go a men first, only because I think there's a risk coming back at pick what's that for 17. There's a risk that Amen Thompson goes before pick 17 to someone else, where I think Mobley is a little bit safer in terms of he should be available. But yes, I absolutely think they're a great pair to start. And then if it's third round reversal, which it should be, you can come back with our friend Dyson Daniels.
Little bonus advice there.
Walker Kessler, look at Asar Thompson in the 70s or 60s, and you're rolling. So yes, short answer is yes, it's fine.
And then you can just name your team name like Kingy's team or built by Kingy or something.
Yeah, I know exactly who to target.
Really brings it all together. Steve, since J-Dub with OKC to start the season, I guess with him being there, is Aaron Wiggins or Casey Wallace the better pickup to start the year? I know Yahoo Ranks had Casey Wallace really high early on. That has been corrected since then. But which of these two are you feeling right now?
It's Wallace for me. I just think he's the safer in terms of the rotation. We're going to see Wiggins out there a little bit, probably more at the beginning of the season as they kind of let the veterans kind of ease their way back into things. Caruso will probably start off on a little bit shorter of a leash. But yeah, I just think Wallace is like the safer of the two picks. So he's who I would prioritize between the two.
All right. And we'll do this one. With you, Scott, do you value percentages? And this is, I guess, kind of going back to the Giannis at pick 5 question. Do you value percentages? And is that how you build your team and value the 3-pointers? Because obviously if you're starting with Giannis, then you're not really going to get any help there.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of a repeat of the last one, but yeah, I completely value percentages and efficiency myself because it's something that you can't get back. If you start that way, you can't really pivot away from it. So you're kind of locked in when you go that way. And it's hard to climb back out of that. I always think of things too. If I give up percentages and I lose a guy like Giannis, let's say he gets injured, that really kind of derails a lot of your entire season. And I value percentages big time. 3-pointers not as much though. The 3-pointers you can get later in drafts. You can get people off waiver wires. You can find threes. You don't find percentages as much.
Everyone shoots threes in the NBA these days, basically. So, yeah, you can probably find someone that's going to get you at least 1 or 2 per game at any round. Alperen Sengun, we're calling him Big Sengun now, has been the best 9-cat stats guy in the preseason. Are these flashes of something we'll see more of in this role for the Rockets this year? Just looking at it on Basketball Monster, he is the number 1 player in 9 category leagues. Having played 2 games at 22.6 minutes per game. Yeah, he's technically that, but I think Josh Lloyd would lose his mind if we told him we were using Basketball Monster and just the number 1 player in his preseason scoring as our reasoning for an Alperen Sengun breakout. But Kingy, I think there is other evidence that we're going to see a breakout season from Sengun. Are you in on him this year?
Yeah, I haven't really ended up with him in too many drafts, but he just I think maybe just where I'm drafting, he hasn't been available. Look, I think we're in for a good season from him. Obviously, with no Fred VanVleet there. That probably helps his assist numbers a little bit. He's sort of one of those players whose fantasy rank, I feel like in the past hasn't necessarily reflected how good he's been, because he does have some deficiencies in his game. But yeah, I've got his game log here. As you said, he's the number one player. But he's not doing anything super outlandish. Like, he's scored 13 and 19 points. So he's not a guy that relies on points. He has 5 rebounds in each of those games. So that number will come up as well. Now, he had 13 assists in the last game. He's not going to get 13 assists every game, but he had 6 in the game before. So that's averaging 9-ish. He could average 6 assists a game. I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up averaging sort of low 20s in points, or at least 20 with 9 to 10 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, a block. He probably doesn't shoot or won't shoot too many threes. He'll take the odd one, but that's not a big part of his game. If he can get his free throws up, I think that will really help his overall value. But no, I do think he's someone. I know he went in our auction mock draft yesterday. He went for $25. And if you go and listen to Josh's show and my show, which will come out later, Josh was kicking himself that he missed. He went to click the bid button on that, and so he's pretty high on him as well, and said $25 was an absolute steal. So that would tell me that even Josh thinks he's a $30+ player, which puts him in that top 20, top 25 range.
Yeah, I remember looking back, because I guess I must have zoned out for a second. I did zone out for a second, Kingy. I know I said that I was paying attention the whole time. I did. I think I missed a couple because I looked down and saw Sengun, and I really like him this year. Saw 25. I was like, yeah, I probably could have, but oh well. We'll figure it out as we keep going on. Steve, this is a big one here because injuries are always a big question. In what range should we be looking to draft a guy like Joel Embiid and a guy like Tyler Hero? And I will pull up the ADP data here. Yahoo Leagues, Embiid's going 50.9, Fantrax 53.5, and for Tyler Hero, 68.8 on Yahoo and 63.1 on Fantrax. Obviously, his ADP has kind of fallen because of the injury that's going to sideline him early on. And then Embiid, I think I remember seeing this from, shout out to Dan Bestperson, his really nice ADP tracker. His ADP has also kind of fallen a few spots throughout the course of, I guess, since drafts opened. But how are you feeling about these two, Steve?
I was going to say 50 to 75 range for both of them. And it depends on a few different things. It depends on your league settings, how many IL spots you have, how much flexibility you have with that. And then also just in terms of your team needs. I've been in mock drafts where I've felt obligated to get Embiid because I was running low on centers. Same thing with Hero. If you need a guy, if you're desperate for a guard, you kind of got to take an aggressive swing. He's a guy that you can pick up and stash for a little while. Again, assuming you're able to do so. So it depends on those factors. But yeah, I would say in general, in the 50 to 75 range is where I'd be looking at either of those guys.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. And it's just something, I guess you probably have to build out the rest of your team as guys that are going to be healthy, because you might have issues in that regard with those two. Or maybe you don't get both in the same draft, but it's maybe you get them in different drafts. Let's see. We've got this one here for you, Scott. Thoughts on Kel'el Ware this fantasy season? I think he can perform well, even coming off the bench. And we've kind of seen that during the preseason. Now, granted, how much stock do we put into preseason? The position battle there with Nikola Jovic, it's all kind of we're not sure yet, but we've kind of got a little bit of data. What are you thinking?
It's funny, I got this one because when we did Kingy's way too early mock draft, I drafted Kel'el Ware. I think it was like, I can't remember where I drafted him, maybe like 8th round or something like that, somewhere in there. I'm high on him. I absolutely like him. I think there's tons of opportunity in Miami, and I think he can be productive off the bench. However, we mentioned Josh a couple times on here, but there were people responding to him through social media saying, somebody just recently took him as high as like mid-30s in a draft or something. That's absurdly way too high. That's insane. So don't do anything like that. So I guess to answer the question, shortly here, yes, I think he can be productive off the bench. I don't think he needs a lot of minutes to do a lot. He could be, low to mid 20s to have an impact, and I would definitely draft him later. I would take him in, depending on your build. Again, we say that all the time, but anywhere between around 7 and 10, if he fits correctly. 7's probably a little too high because there's some other guys you can get a little more. If you're looking like a Clingan or a Rudy Gobert or something like that, you can get a bona fide starter in that kind of area. So probably a little bit after that, but yeah, I definitely draft them, 8, 9, 10th round.
Yeah, and we do like Josh. So feel free to mention Josh. It's okay to continue to do that. We don't have to limit how much we're talking about him. Kingy, I think this is one of your guys, Ryan Kalkbrenner. What are your thoughts on him? Are you worried at all about preseason minutes?
He is one of my guys. I think he should be their starting center. I was, even before we saw any games, I was worried simply by the fact that they signed or traded for, or whatever they did, Mason Plumlee. And the fact that he's even out there concerns me. Like, why? He played, I know, because I did the player notes blurbs for this game, one of their games the other day, and Plumlee played, I don't know, played like 15 minutes. He didn't score. I just don't know why he's out there. What is the point? So I'm a little concerned that Kalkbrenner gets underutilized to start the season. In saying that, I think he's looked pretty good and he's continuing to look better. So his last game, he had a 14 and 10 double-double with a block. I think he's probably worth. I wouldn't invest too high a draft pick in him, but I'd definitely consider him with your last pick if you need a center. And I mean, you'll know within a week whether he's someone that you're going to be able to hold, or whether it's going to be like it was with Kel'el Ware last season. Speaking of Kel'el Ware, he was someone I took with a lot of my last picks in drafts, and then he wasn't even in the rotation until I think we hit January maybe, and he started playing because I remember I was on holiday walking around checking fantasy stuff on my phone and saw that Kel'el Ware was going to start or something. I got very excited. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think take a flyer on him, and if he plays 20 minutes, he could have some value. But if they're just chopping and changing and going with Diabate, then you probably drop him and just wait for the Hornets to get injured and start playing these guys.
I don't know, man. Maybe the Hornets don't get injured this year. I don't know.
I hope not. I really hope they don't. But
I hope they don't too. It's just
yeah. I'd love to see them compete. Like they're not going to win the title or anything, but I'd love to just see them in March competing for a playoff spot, because it feels like it's been forever since they've been in that situation.
And there's a lot of fun talent on that team for sure. So I hope they are. The last time they were healthy, they were a play-in team. So we'll see if they're able to do that this year. Next one here we've got for you, Steve. We'll be picking third and thinking of taking SGA. In your opinion, which players from the 22nd and 27th picks would be the best fit for SGA? We might actually give all of our takes here, because I think the kind of first, second, third round pairings is really nice. And really quick, I'm going to shamelessly plug once again. I actually just before we started this published a first and second round pairings column on the Roto World site. And I had kind of not doing like here is the player and then who to pair it. It was just kind of like almost like a little mock draft I did, and then saying this would be the best fit. But here's a couple other guys I would also consider. I ended up pairing him with Jalen Williams, and then some other options I had were Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Johnson, Amen Thompson. Steve, we'll start with you. Who do you think would be a great fit next to SGA that could kind of go in this range?
Mine is very easy because I've done this a few times in mock drafts. Derek White and Miles Turner, two of my favorites in the second, third round kind of range. I'm really big on getting guards and bigs early and often. Those are three of my top favorite players this year, and really most years. So pretty easy answer for me.
Scott, what about you?
Yeah, I haven't done this myself. I've never had a top. Well, I got a fourth pick in one draft, and I took Luka. Shai was already gone, but I guess there's two ways always to look at it, and it's like if you want to play, into his well, he doesn't really have any weaknesses really, right? But turnovers a little bit and some rebounding. But he's so well-rounded that you can go routes where you're complimenting him as far as like, he's so great in points, steals, free throw percentage, all these things that he's super great at, and you can go against those if you want, or you can try to compliment him with the things he doesn't do too well. But Jalen Williams actually is one of the ones that I would probably put him with. I completely agree with that. I think it works real well. And you can easily get him at that spot. And he's even, with the news of his hand and stuff too, easily falling to where you get him at the end of the second round. No issue. So he's usually always there for you. So that's a great one. I love Derek White. I agree with that one. I've always loved Derek White, but I would pair Derek White with anybody. So it doesn't really matter on that one. Jamal Murray seems like a good guy to me that kind of comes around, and you can get him usually beginning. Well, depending if you have the third round reversal, you can get him at the end of the third round sometimes. And that works out, or the opposite way, sorry. But that works out really well too. You get a good amount of threes, you get some assists, and the free throw percentage stays super strong, which is great. So when you're adding into those strong categories, that's what I like to do. But I think Jalen Williams complements, and then Jamal Murray kind of just adds on to what he's great at already.
And Kingy, for you, I know you like to punt points, so you probably won't even ever draft SGA. But I guess if you were forced to take SGA, poor thing, you have to take SGA in your draft. How would you build out this team?
He is someone I haven't got on any of my teams this year. I've had a lot of 1s and 2s, so I've got a lot of Wemby this season. I'm about to get Jokic in a draft because I have the number 1 pick. So I guess it sort of is. What is your mindset here? Do you want to draft players that complement him and go for a balanced build, or do you want to try and find something to punt? Because as we've said, he is a tricky one to punt around because he's pretty good across the board. I guess you could sort of consider him a punt threes player because he's not a high volume 3-point scorer for a guard. But again, he's a tough one, which is why I don't like drafting him, because I like punting and he's hard to figure out. So I would say, Amen Thompson, I think, is a nice one. Jalen Williams, if we've talked about these players. Jalen Johnson is another one. I guess I'm just thinking of players that are pretty good across the board and maybe don't necessarily hit a ton of threes. Scotty Barnes might be another one who's there. He's sort of good in all your counting stats, and his percentages they're not great, but they're not terrible. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't go at 22. Is that what it was? Yeah, 22. I wouldn't go with this player at 22, but at 27, if he's there, have a look at LaMelo. I mean, LaMelo and Shai, I think, is a nice guard pairing, especially, as we said, if the Hornets stay healthy and LaMelo can play 60-plus games. That's probably wishful thinking, but I wouldn't mind that pairing as well. So I think there's plenty of options, which is one of the benefits of drafting Shai. There's no real wrong answer because he fits so many different builds.
Exactly. Kingy just can't stand these complete, well-rounded players. He likes something that's flawed, and to be able to kind of work around it to make it work better. He likes to fix things. Yeah,
I love the imperfections, and unfortunately, Shai doesn't really have any.
You just find beauty in the imperfection. I love that. Yeah, that's great there. Steve, what are your thoughts on Isaiah Jackson with the Pacers? And thanks for the great fantasy advice, guys. You're welcome. Hopefully it helps.
I absolutely love Isaiah Jackson. He's been one of my guys. I've been preaching him ever since Miles Turner left and went to Milwaukee. We've seen Jackson in the past fill in for Miles Turner when he's been out for different reasons. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy, but I think he's the favorite to start at center in Indiana. I love his skill set. I love his upside. I'm very high on him. I've targeted him aggressively in mock drafts. Scott got him ahead of me in one of our mocks that we did. I kind of knew he was going to. I was kind of prepared for it. But yeah, no, I 2 big thumbs up. Isaiah Jackson, go get him.
Nice late round swing there. All right, the next one we've got here, Scott, is I picked up Zion in the 4th round and Kristaps in the 7th. Was that a bad idea considering I already have De'Aaron Fox in a 12-team ESPN points league?
So that's a bad question to ask me. Yes, bad idea. All right, let's move on to the next one. No, it all depends how you feel about taking on some risk. Kristaps Porzingis, I think, is fine. He's going to be great. I love what Atlanta's doing. And Steve's talked about it on his podcast many times about how him coming off the bench can still be productive if he ends up going that way. And he's probably going to start now, but he doesn't need tons of minutes to be very productive. I think Porzingis is fine, even if he plays not a huge amount of games there. De'Aaron Fox, I'm okay with that, because especially where he's getting drafted right now, he's been falling far enough that I'm actually comfortable with it. Obviously, there's the backcourt in San Antonio is kind of busy, but I mean, I've been seeing him go in 5th round stuff, 6th round, and sometimes. So, De'Aaron Fox to me is kind of like grabbing Darius Garland in a way, where he's just going to be out for a little bit, but should be able to help your team for the long run, and especially making that playoff push and going through the playoffs. So, but the Zion part, I'm not a big Zion guy. I wouldn't risk anything, over a 8th round pick for Zion, in my opinion. So that's never going to happen for me. But
it's better in points leagues, but yes, even still, the risk and everything that you just said.
So yeah, I think 2 of 3 is fine. When you get 3 of 3, you're kind of playing with a little bit of fire there. So
yeah, I mean, the chance of all 3 maximizing their games played is probably pretty low, considering Fox is already going to miss time, and Zion and Kristaps, that's just what it has been. But maybe you luck out and you have the best team ever and you win your league. I mean, I think it's a scenario. It's not one I would bank on, but it's possible. We're gonna shout out the brand here because Kingy, this question is: I have Steph, LeBron, and Kawhi, the definition of the old man squad. Shout out to the old man squad here. Am I screwed? I guess that's the question here. Do you think so, Kingy?
Well, it depends where you drafted them. If hopefully they weren't your first 3 picks. If they were your first 3 picks, you might be in a spot of bother. But if you got them at value, I think Steph will be pretty good this season, so I'm not too worried about him. I mean, he's going to have to do a lot in Golden State. LeBron, I don't know. The injury worries me a little bit, just because it's not an injury where we can put a definite time frame on. Like it's not a hamstring strain, it's not an ankle sprain, it's not a broken bone. So this is I don't know a lot about sciatica or nerve injuries, but to me, this feels like something that could just linger. And given his age and the fact that Luke is there, he could play 30 games. He could play 60 games. I really don't know. Kawhi, I think Kawhi will be okay, assuming he doesn't get in legal trouble. I don't know what's happening with all of that off-court stuff. But so, yeah, LeBron would be the one I'm most concerned about there. And so depending on how high you drafted him, you might be okay, though. And if you have a league settings, do you have a games cap, all that sort of stuff. But certainly risky to take all 3. As long as you don't have Embiid, then if you also had Embiid, then you'd really be in trouble.
And there you go. That's your solution, is to not add Joel Embiid. And I do want to take this opportunity while we're talking about LeBron to remind you guys that this podcast, the show, is presented by our partners at FanDuel. And with LeBron, you can bet on his player props. Of course, you can do that all season long on there. It's a great site. But you can also bet on him to score 10-plus points in every single regular season game this year to maintain the streak, which is currently at 1,292 consecutive games of LeBron scoring at least 10-plus points. That is available to you as well as a number of other really fun lines you can check out. Our partners at FanDuel. Steve, we're going to move on to the next question here. Is it too risky to draft Chet and Jalen Williams after starting your draft with Jokic?
I don't think it's too risky. It's kind of a gutsy move just because, when you're pairing 2 teammates like that, and OKC's schedule, excuse me, it kind of depends on when your playoffs are, if you're in a head-to-head league. But that's something to keep in mind. Just be aware of what your fantasy playoffs look like before doing that. But honestly, in terms of build, it's pretty good. I mean, you're getting a a little bit of everything in Jokic. And then, you got Chet, you got Jay Will, just a lot of versatility there, a lot of defense, a little bit of offense, a lot of upside. You could do a lot worse with your team.
For sure. All right, Scott, this next question we've got here is kind of a simpler one, but what is Bennedict Mathurin's ceiling? Are you high on Bennedict Mathurin this season with no Tyrese Halliburton, or are you kind of
Yeah, this is a perfect description. I'm always, I might have talked, I can't remember. Maybe I talked about this Dan on the My Guys show, but with Indiana, I love Indiana. I'm actually a Pacers fan after I'm a Pistons fan, which probably doesn't make much sense, but it's true. And I just feel like they utilize guys so much and different guys, and there's so many people there. Rick Carlisle likes to give good amount of minutes to a lot of people. We see it all the time. I saw it last year and whatnot. So when you're grabbing these guys, I don't think the ceiling is all that high, because I don't think they're going to get these super elevated minutes over with the Pacers. Granted, yes, there's more opportunity than there was last year and things like that, but I think where he's getting drafted is probably pretty close to where he ends up, maybe a round higher. So I don't think there's much ceiling above. However, I do think his floor is actually somewhat not too low. So I think where you're getting him properly valued, in my opinion.
And he's certainly going to shoot the ball and score some points, but I think it's really fascinating that inside you at all times, the malice at the palace is just going on. These are your two favorite teams, and it's just like, that's just what's always going on inside your head. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Kingy, this one I think is pretty on brand for you. With Wemby, Amen, and Jalen Johnson as my starting three keepers. Phenomenal there. Josh Giddey and James Harden are available next. What do you think, or what type of punt should I go for? He's sitting up. He's leaning up.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, get ready. Look, very good starting three. I think those three complement each other. Like, they're three guys. If I was going with that sort of defensive build that I'd consider. I mean, just looking at Giddey and Harden, if I had to pick one of those guys, if you were looking at who to go with next, I think Giddey would be a better fit potentially. I just think he does a little bit more in terms of rebounding. You're not completely I guess you could go Harden. You're not completely ruling out assists with those three players, because Wemby, Amen, and Jalen will all get assists. They're not elite, but I guess you could go Harden or Giddey. Giddey will probably get as many assists almost as Harden anyway, won't he? So I think Giddey there, and I mean, are there any other players? I'm sure there are. What type of punt would I go with? I've actually got Wemby in a team which I just made my draft pick. I think we're up to the 12th round or something, but Wemby's another one that's tricky to build around because he is pretty good at everything. But I ended up punting points and threes with him, just with the players that I drafted. And I actually drafted Jalen Johnson in that team. So I just ended up falling into that punt build. But again, threes are pretty easy to get late, as we've talked about. So, yeah, I don't mind Giddey or Harden. I would probably go Giddey over Harden. I just think Harden is who Harden is, where Giddey, we don't really know what we're going to get from him. There's a bit of risk, but there's also more upside. So, I'd potentially go Giddey. Although if Harden's available, someone hasn't kept him, or because in terms of pure rank, I think Harden is the better player. It doesn't really answer the question, but what punt would I go for? Threes, maybe assists, maybe points. So I think, I on the surface, I'd go Giddey out of those two guys.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, if that fits in pretty well with the punt threes build there, which, Wemby's probably the best source of threes between those three, but there's a lot of versatility there. You can kind of let whoever else is available kind of dictate the rest of that. The next one we got here, Steve, thoughts on Shaedon Sharpe this season with Anthony Simons gone. And then also thoughts on Jaden Ivey's return after the injury. I know you've got your thoughts locked and loaded for the second one.
Yeah.
But then Shaedon Sharpe being here with no Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson missing time to start the year. So what do you think about these two guards from the 2022 draft? They're both from the same class, yeah.
Yeah, very excited about both of them. Shaedon Sharpe, definitely excited for his fantasy outlook here heading into the season. He's a guy that's going up in drafts. Definitely a guy that if you want him, you're going to have to target him probably like right after the 100 range because he is starting to move up a little bit. Ivy, he's a guy that gets drafted, but he still has a ways to go in terms of his fantasy game. I think he's somebody that, like, if you can get him late, cool. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world. In reality, I'm very excited for him. And that is bias, definitely. But even without that, he's a good, young, exciting, up-and-coming player that we all want to see on the court. So as long as he's healthy, he should be able to improve, get better all around, namely his shooting. We've talked about that on Menace Podmen a handful of times. So, yeah, very excited about both guys. But, yeah, in terms of fantasy, Sharpe's the guy that I would definitely target. And like I said, I'd get a little aggressive. If you want him, start looking at him, pretty much right after pick 100 or so.
Yeah, two really talented guards here. Scott, moving on, wondering your thoughts on the Keegan Murray fallout with him set to miss an extended period of time. It seems like Malik Monk and Keon Ellis will get the opportunity to step up. I was recording with Raphael Johnson earlier, and he was throwing out the name Nick Clifford as a potential guy to take some of the minutes there. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen in Sacramento, I guess, with Keegan Murray sidelined?
Oh, well, obviously don't draft him. Monk Ellis, you mentioned, both those guys are great people to pick up late in drafts, and you're going to get some production out of them. My favorite part of this is a lot of people Sabonis. I loved Domantas Sabonis, actually, and a lot of people are down on him this year. He's been sliding in drafts. You can get him, end of the second round in some drafts these years. DeMar DeRozan, another name that, he slips. Geez, I don't know where he's getting picked now, but that middle rounds now. So you've got these guys that I think are going to get actually better, and they're sliding in drafts a little bit further than I actually prefer. So I feel like I'm getting value out of these guys. So I guess if you haven't drafted yet, my thoughts are that Sabonis, DeRozan, guys like this are going to be more valuable than what you're drafting them at right now. And you'll get more value out of them than we expected. So.
Yeah, definitely a nice boost for a number of players in Sacramento. Moving on to this next question, Kingy, how would you rank these three first-round guards? I feel like I've been seeing a lot of interchange between these three: Trae Young, James Harden, Devin Booker, and I think we'll all answer this question.
Yeah, look, they're pretty interchangeable, I think, depending on what stats you want to focus on. Obviously, Trae, if you want assists, I would go Trae first because I think he could be 11 or 12 assists this season. The other two are probably under 10. So if it's assists, I would go him. Points, you probably go Booker first, then Trae, then Harden. So, they're all going to give you traditional guard stats. Defensively, none of them are great defenders, but Harden tends to sort of just fumble his way into decent steal numbers. So probably Harden. So I think for me, it would depend on what stats do you want to target early. For me personally, it's points and assists. That's what you need to get. Unless you're punting those categories, that's what you need first. And that's why I would go Trae. So if I was at pick 9 or 10 in a draft and all three of these players are available, which they should be, I would personally go Trae. But I think you could make a case for any of them, really.
Steve, how about for you?
Pretty much the exact same thing. I think the only difference with me is I tend to play mostly 9-cat, and I tend to draft mostly balanced. So I would probably say Harden over Trae Young. But, yeah, it does depend on your build. It depends on your league. Pretty much everything that Kingy said. If you're searching for specific categories and stuff, that will play a factor. But, yeah, I think for me personally, I'd probably go Harden number 1. I like Booker because I like the complete mystery box of that Phoenix Suns team. We don't really know who's going to have what role. We don't know who's going to last in the lineup. So that's kind of fun. But then, yeah, like Trae Young too, Atlanta's trying to, turn a corner here and start competing. And obviously Trae Young's been through a lot. There's been a lot of rumors and stuff. A lot of other players talking smack about him. Is he a leader? Is he somebody that can be a true franchise guy? So yeah, I mean, they're all kind of fun in their own way. So yeah, I guess, like I said, I would mostly echo what Kingy said, but yeah, I think if you're looking for 9-cat, just complete all around, I would tend to go Harden first. But yeah, all three of them help you in multiple categories.
And how about for you, Scott?
Yeah, obviously everything you guys said already is very valid. My personal opinion, I put Harden, then Trae, then Booker. I agree the assists are probably the most important part out of those three. So I can kind of just, process of elimination, take Booker out. I think Trae and Harden obviously better on the assist route. And then, like Kingy said, points and assists. So points getting early, I honestly think Trae takes a step back as far as points are concerned with all the additions that they made, Jalen Johnson being healthy, hopefully all year and things like that. Harden's situation in LA is probably a little more consistent to what he had last year. So I think I would take Harden with those considerations, then Trae Young, then Booker.
All right, so I guess I'm the odd man out. I think, like you guys said, all three are fairly comparable. That's what ADP says as well. I'd actually probably go Trae Young first, though. Now that you guys are talking about it, I'm like kind of thinking, and I'm remembering back to some of the preseason action that we've seen with Jalen Johnson having the ball in his hands a little bit more. Does Trae Young not have it as much, or does that help him be more efficient? I'd still probably take him first, and then I think, Steve, you were the one that said the mystery box of the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
That with, like Devin Booker there, that's really exciting. I tend to shy away from James Harden, but maybe I shouldn't. But he would be third for me. I guess there would be Kingy next. I don't even remember what the rotation was for these questions, but we'll just kind of go with it because it doesn't matter that much. Where do you see the value of John Collins this year?
Oh, he's a tough one. The Clippers are so old that I think where we view him now and where he actually ends up finishing are probably maybe miles apart, because if they're healthy, they play all their guys, he probably sort of sits in that top 100 range. But, I mean, if Zubac gets injured or Brook Lopez gets injured and John Collins starts and plays 32 minutes a night, he could be a top 60 player or a top 50 player. In terms of where we draft him, I think, is he going in that 100 range? I feel like that's sort of where I'd be targeting him, 100 to 120. That feels probably right. Maybe he's a bit... actually, hang on. I'm just looking at the data. So he's in the 90s. Okay. That's probably as high as I'd want to go on him. Yeah, it's a little bit uncertain, but I think he'll definitely be valuable, but would benefit if there was an injury, and we sort of need to see whether he spends any time at center. I think that's sort of determines what his overall value is, or do they purely play him as a 4?
And we've got, I just want to throw this, it's not a comment, or it's not a question, it's a comment. I just want to throw it up here because shout out to Matty G. Look at these guys like being on an old man squad Zoom meeting. Like, that's pretty cool. I'm enjoying it. This was really fun. We are going to go ahead and wrap things up. I will be back tomorrow with 2 different Dans answering more questions for another hour. And I will let you guys tune in to find out which 2 Dans that is.
Are you going to be in between the 2 Dans?
I will try and adjust the camera to be between 2 Dans, just to shout out the old pod.
Yeah.
But which 2 Dans? You'll have to see tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time to figure that out. But before I let you guys go, I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk a bit about what you guys have going on, where we can find your work. Start with the Menace Podmen with Steve. You can find him at podcast_Pierre, and you can find Scott at Dutz Keller. You can also find at Menace Podmen, I believe, is that one. And then also Will Slambier. I don't know if that's still going. I'll let you guys talk about it. You guys tell me what's going on.
Well, I gotta give Steve Menace Podmen there because that's all him now. So
yeah, and not much to really say. I mean, we're in the thick of it now. Everybody's drafting pretty much by this weekend. So we're gonna be regular season mode here. Every week we'll come on. We'll talk about who's injured, who's playing, who's not playing, who's in the starting lineup, who's coming off the bench, all that good stuff. And we'll mix in some fun conversation in between as well.
And Scott, what about with you? Is it Will Slambier still going on?
I'm not doing anything right now. Just doing just listening to all you guys,
cool.
Making some guest spots, appearances. But yeah, just participating in some NBA fantasy drafts and going crazy with that. But yeah, Will Slambier wrapped up there in September at the end of the WNBA fantasy season. We'll have some shows come out probably before the end of the new year as we get into some expansion draft talk and we'll get into free agency next February. But yeah, a few months away until Will Slambier returns.
Definitely. It's WNBA season just wrapped up. Give all those accounts a follow that we just talked about for WNBA content and NBA content. And Kingy, for you, obviously you can follow him at AdamKing91. What have you got coming up?
Look, preseason stuff. I mean, as I touched on earlier, the auction mock we did yesterday. I think my show will be. I think it's scheduled to come out in about 2 hours. Josh also did one there. I don't know if the other guys will end up doing a show. There might be another couple floating around. And then I guess prepping. We're only, what are we? 4 to 9 days from the regular, 8 days from the regular start of the regular season. So have to start putting a schedule together of some regular content. Try not to overlap. We're all doing a lot of stuff here at Old Man Squad. So yeah, there's plenty to check out. And yeah, watch along with me and Noah and Dan and Matty G's got his show and I'm just checking now. Old Man Squad just hit 9,000 subscribers. So there you go. That was I tweeted out something last night. So we've just hit 9,000. So yeah, follow me and I'll probably be doing some mailbag shows this week and then my written content also will be starting to flow next week, I think, over on RotoWire. So I'll tweet all of that out as well.
Awesome. Definitely give all these guys a follow. This was the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, which is part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network, part of the Believe Network, and presented by our partners at FanDuel. As I said, I will be back tomorrow with 2 Dans to be answering all of your fantasy basketball-related questions. But that's going to do it. Gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining me. This was a blast. We will definitely be reconnecting throughout the season.
Sounds good.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks,
Alrighty. And thank you to everyone tuning in, and I will hopefully see you guys back on here tomorrow to answer your questions.